Listening multiple choice, multiple answer questions are some of the hardest questions in the PTE test. Have you ever tried to do some? Stressful, right? A lot of information in a short amount of time. A lot of students just skip these questions because they're so hard. But if you avoid two common traps and use my three-step technique, you don't need to skip this question anymore, and you can boost your score. I'll show you. Today's 6-minute PTE lesson will be for the 15th question type of the PTE academic, multiple choice, multiple answer in the listening section. So, first, I'll explain what you should avoid before answering questions. There are 2 points you should avoid, and if you can avoid these 2 points, your score will be different. Second, I'll introduce my 3-step technique for listening multiple choice, multiple answer questions. Timing of these questions is pretty limited because you have to read and listen to a lot in a short time. So if you use my 3 steps, you can control time and choose correct answers easily. And in the end, you'll do some collocation study, which a lot of my viewers asked for. As you know, if you know collocations, you can improve your PTE score a lot. So please stay until the end. My name's Pam, and I'm an English teacher with over 20 years of experience. And I got a PTE score of 90 out of 90. I'm teaching a lesson on every PTE question type on YouTube. So, if you miss any of my videos, please check the playlist on my channel. And if you find today's lesson useful, please click to subscribe. Also, like and comment on my videos. I love hearing from you about what you want. One more thing, right now I'm making a PTE course. This is a concentrated and specialized PTE study course. And when I finish it, I'll let you know. So please check my website often. It's neo-english.com. In the meantime, I'm still teaching online, so you can still contact me for private lessons or to take my course English for University. You can contact me through my website for that as well. Have you seen a PTE multiple choice, multiple answer question before? This is what one looks like. You have to read the question and all the answer choices in a short time and listen a lot. And that is why most people use 2 ways to try this question type. But these are both traps. Trap 1, they try to read the question and the answer choices before the listening starts. This is madness. You only have 7 seconds before the listening starts. So, if you don't have the skill to read with lightning speed, I don't recommend it. And then trap 2, that's the opposite of trap 1. In this case, they don't read anything and just take notes. Then, after the listening finishes, they read and answer the questions. But this doesn't work so well either because there is so much information in the listening. If you have a fantastic memory, maybe you can do this. But this way you don't know which bits are important and which bits are not. It's quite a hard way for you. Okay then, what is the best way to avoid these traps? Well, do we have to do reading and listening at the same time? Yes. It sounds impossible, huh? But you really can do it with my techniques. So let's begin the lesson. There are 2 or 3 multiple choice, multiple answer questions in the PTE. You have 7 seconds first to read the question, then you listen to a lecture of about 1 minute, and then you have about 30 seconds of silence to choose 2 or more correct answers. Okay, so to read and listen at the same time and get a better score in these questions, follow 3 steps. Step 1, question point. Step 2, listen and read. Step 3, not confident? Don't answer. I'll explain these 3 steps with example questions. Let's look at a question now. See? In 7 seconds, can you read this question and all the answer choices? Impossible, right? So what should you do? I suggest this. Step 1, question point. Just go straight to the question and find out its point. But don't read the answer choices. And do this before the listening starts. Now, the most important thing to understand is if the question is asking for main ideas or details. If you recognize this, listening will be much easier because you'll know when to listen. I'll explain how in step 2, but for now, let's analyze 2 example questions. Look at this one. Is it asking for main idea or details? Yes, main idea. And you knew that because of the word purpose. Words like purpose, key points, and main issue mean that the question is asking for the main idea. Now, look at this question. Is it asking for main idea or details? Yes, details. There were no words that mean main idea in the question. So, listen for details. And the details of this question? Well, one more tip. I think it's difficult to remember complicated questions like this one. So simplify by rewording. For example, what does this doctor think causes migraines? And then, before the listening has started, you would have a clear idea of the question's point. Then step 2, listen and read. As I mentioned, you should read during the listening. I'll explain how to do that at the same time for first, questions about the main idea, and second, questions about details. So for main ideas, listen really carefully for the first 15 seconds. Then, when you have caught the main idea, read the answer choices and check the ones that you think are correct as you listen. Now, do you understand why that technique works? It's because in academic English, we always say the main idea at the beginning of a lecture. Now, for detail questions, your technique is totally opposite. This means do not listen to the first 15 seconds. Instead, use that time to read the answer choices. To understand the answer choices quickly, just look for the most important words in each choice. Then, when you're listening, you can find what you need easily. So, for example, when I look at these answers, I might pick light, sleep, lactose, caffeinated, posture. Then, after you have found the important words in the answer choices, focus on listening for them. Listen for those important words or words with the same meaning and use them to work out which answers are maybe correct. Now, this technique works because when you already know you're listening for details, you don't need to listen to the main idea at the beginning of the lecture, and you can use that time to read. Okay, let's try an example question. This is an official PTE offline practice test question. I'll answer the question using the technique I told you, and let's do it together. Are you ready? Let's go.
We are led to believe that basically much of eastern North America was heavily cloaked in mature forest that today we covet as old growth, and yet at one time it was the sort of ancestral botanical blanket that covered much of certainly Massachusetts and New England. Certainly one of the first things that happened as increasing waves of colonists arrived was the need to clear the land. And this clearing of the land is something that started really in the form of small subsistence farms. The timber was used for building houses, for building ships, for firewood, for all manner of things. The boulders, the glacial erratic stones that were so much a part of the New England landscape are today sort of what we find in the lattice work of stone walls that one can find practically anywhere in the landscape if it's in a relatively untouched condition. By the early part of the 19th century, it's thought that generally the zenith of clearing had taken place. sometime in the 1830s, 1840s, and the trees and the forests were essentially clear-cut to an extent that is almost unbelievable.
So how was that? I hope my technique is proven. Now, some of you might want to see the transcript of that listening. If you do not, look away for 5 seconds. If you do, here it is. Okay, now let's go back to the answers to this question. Did you check the same choices as me? Let's analyze the answers. Now, I checked this because I heard clear the land and forests are clear cut to an extent that was unbelievable. Now, I didn't check this one about old farming methods because I didn't hear any mention of farming methods. And I didn't check this one because I didn't hear any mention of species either. But I checked both this one and this one because I did hear talk about stones. So step 2 is done. But this is not enough. You still need to do step 3 to finalize your answers. And what is step 3? Just this. If you're not confident, don't answer. Remember, for these questions with multiple answers, if you make a mistake, you lose points. For example, only one of these 2 answer choices about stones is actually correct. This one. But when I was just listening, I wasn't confident about that answer. I heard mention of stones, but I didn't hear anything about quarries or sections of land, and so it wasn't enough for me to be confident. In this case, it's better not to answer. Don't risk the points. And you should also know this. These questions usually only have 2 correct answers. Of course, sometimes there may be 3 or more, but usually it's just 2. Anyway, the actual correct answers to this question were this one and this one. So just remember step 1, question point, step 2, listen and read, and step 3, not confident? Don't answer. Okay, finally, let's study collocations. As I told you, if you know collocations, you can increase your PTE score so much. They really help directly with all fill-in-the-blank questions, describe image, essays. Honestly, they help with every single PTE question type. And your English in general. Now, if you want to know more about each question type, please check my old videos. But anyway, for collocations, let's start by checking this list. These are all simple, everyday collocations. And I want to start with these simple ones because I can see in the comments many of you are using these collocations wrongly. They look easy, but you must memorize them exactly or you won't improve your score. As you can see, most words have more than one collocation. For example, take an exam is a collocation. If you're a student, you take an exam. But if you're a teacher, you give an exam. And of course, you can pass an exam and fail an exam. But a lot of students use take and give wrongly. As I said, I've seen some of you do this. So this is an easy fix. Just make sure who is the subject and use give and take correctly to match that. But even words that have collocations with give and take also have other collocations. You can see that on this list. So you should memorize all the collocations, but also make sure you understand their meanings by checking yourself. Now, let me give you a quiz. Use any collocations you know to correctly fill in the blanks of these sentences. 1. PTE fluency into consideration when scoring speaking. Okay. Number 2. She an account of her journey in her presentation. Number 3. When you write an essay, you should a stance on the idea. Okay, I'll show you the answers for these questions in the next video, and I'll also give you explanations for these and some new collocations. So as I told you, learning collocations is one of the best ways to boost your PTE score. I think you should study more of these by yourself too. There are a lot of collocation lists on the internet. but I think you can't memorize them just by reading lists. Well, anyway, that's it for today's collocation lesson. Thanks again to all of you for your support for this channel. If you can find time to like, subscribe and comment, it really means a lot. Take care everyone, and I look forward to seeing you at our next lesson, number 16, Listening, fill in the blanks.